Math Lesson 90 Video Part 2. Okay, so I'm going to start by writing some things on the board. All right, so what we have here is 1 yard is 36 inches, 1 hour is 60 minutes, and 1 day is 24 hours. Today we're going to be talking about unit conversion. So, again, let's repeat. 1 yard is 36 inches. 1 hour is 36 minutes. And 1 day is 24 hours. Please repeat this again. 1 yard is 36 inches, 1 hour is 60 minutes, and 1 day is 24 hours. So, what's the number for yards? 1. Are there more yards or inches in yards versus inches? There's more inches. So, how many times more inches are there than yards? 36 times more. There's 1 here, 36 over here. So, I'll say that again. What's the number for yards? 1. What's the number for inches? 36. Are there more yards or inches? Inches. You have 1 yard and 36 inches. How many times more do you have? 36. So if you change yards to inches, you end up with more than 1. So I'm going to add something to this now. Change 5 yards into inches. Change 5 yards into inches. The related units are yards and inches. What are the related units? The related units are yards and inches. Again, yards and inches. So, if you change yards into inches, you'll end up with more than 5. Here, you're going to end up with more than 5 because you're multiplying 5 yards into inches. Remember, this is 36 times more when you have 1. Now you know you have 5. So, do you multiply or divide to figure out the inches? You multiply. You multiply to find out the inches. So the multiplication problem would be 5 times 36. If I know 1 yard equals 36 inches, and now I have 5 yards, all I have to do is times 5 times 36. So my equation is going to be 5 times 36. Now let's switch it up a little bit. Let's change 5 into 3. Am I going to multiply or divide? I'm going to multiply again. Nothing's changed except for how many yards I have. So my new equation is going to be 3 times 36 when I'm converting yards into inches. Because remember, I have 1 yard equals 36 inches. 36 times more, but now I have 3 yards. So all I have to do is remember, if I have 36 inches in 1 yard, all I have to do is do 36 times 3 now. And what are the related units? Yards and inches are the related units. Now, we'll do it again. Now I have 48 yards, and I need them in inches. What do I need to do? I need to multiply 48 yards times 36 inches to get my total. Next up. One hour is 60 minutes. This is a fact. 1 hour is 60 minutes. If you have a clock, you have all your hour hands, and in altogether you have 60 minutes. So, what's the number for hours right now? 1. What's the number for minutes? 60 minutes. How many times more minutes are there than hours? 60 times more, because it's only 1 hour to 60 minutes. Now, let's change 7 hours into minutes. What do you think I would need to do here? If you thought I need to multiply 7 by 60 minutes, you are correct. Because now I'm just turning this 1 hour equals 60 minutes, so now I have 7 hours. So all I need to do is 7 times 60 to convert to minutes. Now, here's something a little trickier. 1/2. Change 1/2 hours into minutes. Well, my equation is still going to be 1/2 times 60. Because I know if I have only half of this, it's still got to be multiplied to convert to minutes. You need to multiply it by 60. There's always 60 minutes within an hour. So what's half of 60? 30. All right, next up. 1 day is 24 hours. So in 1 day, we have 24 hours. So now we know that there's more hours than there is day here. I have 1 day to 24 hours. You can fit 24 hours into 1 day. How many times more hours are there than days? 24 times. So now, let's add this to the equation. Change 13 days into hours. Sorry if that's a little hard to read. Change 13 days into hours. What do I need to do? I need to multiply what by what? I need to multiply 13 by 24 because I'm trying to figure out how many hours are in 13 days. And I know that there's 24 hours in 1 day. So all I need to do is 13 times 24 to figure out my hours. Okay, so let's move to part 2 in your textbook. Part 2 in your textbook. Problem A, how many servings? Let me backtrack a little bit. So part 2 in your textbook, lesson 90. To work these problems, you have to divide. But the problems are written, so you have to read them carefully. Problem A, how many servings of 3/4 pound each would somebody get from 6 pounds of salad? I'll read that again. How many servings of 3/4 pound each would somebody get from 6 pounds of salad? So, do you need to let me know, or you can't let me know. So, 3/4 or 6 pounds is the amount you need before you divide. You need, the amount you have is 6 pounds before you divide. So our problem, for problem A, our equation is going to be 6 divided by 34. Not 34, 3/4. 6 divided by 3/4. Next one, problem B. Bill has 45/7 gallons of cream. He wants to fill 5 containers. How much cream will be in each container? So, what's the amount you have before you divide? 45/7 gallons. 45/7 gallons. And how many pieces do we need to divide it into? 5 containers. So we're going to divide it by 5. Problem C. You want to make 3 servings from 55 half ounces of salad. How many ounces would be in each serving? What's the number you have before you divide? 55 half ounces. And what are you turning it into? 3 groups. So, let's go back to problem A. How many servings of 3/4 pounds each would somebody get from 6 pounds of salad? The problem you need to work again is 6 divided by 3/4. So, you work the problem 6 divided by 3/4. What's the whole answer? 8 servings. You should have shown your work. Problem B. Bill has 45/7 gallons of cream. He wants to fill 5 containers. How much cream will be in each container? So it was 45/7 divided by 5. What's the answer? 1 2/7 gallons. The rest I'll check when you turn in your work. Now let's move to word problems. Let me write this on the board. I'll read this to you. 3/4 of the books were open. There were 20 closed books. How many books were there in all? So you're going to write the equation for the facts. So, how many names do we have that it lists? Well, we have 3. Books, open, and closed. So, let's read the equation that has those letters. We're going to do, so we know 3/4 of the books are closed. Or sorry, 3/4 of the books were open. But now it wants to know how many were in all, and we know 20 are closed. So we're going to write the equation for closed. Well, if I know 3/4 were open, that means 1/4 of the books were closed. And what does closed, the quantity of closed? 20. There's your equation. So, work the problem and then write the answer. Pause the video now. This is how you solve it. You need to get the b all by itself. So you're going to multiply this by 4/1 and this by 4/1. 1. 20 times 4 is 80 over 1, which equals 80, which equals books, all books. Just like so. Here's another one. Five-eighths of the flowers were blooming. 15 flowers were not blooming. How many flowers were there? So, how many names first does it give us for this equation? We have flowers, blooming, and not blooming. So, the number it gives us is for flowers that are not blooming, which is 15. I know I have 5/8 of the flowers that were blooming. But how many weren't? Because we need to know, because we're going to use the 15 in our equation. 3/8. So we have 3/8 of the flowers were not blooming. And what does N represent? Not blooming, which is 15. So now I need to solve it. Pause the video now to try this equation out. And here we go. So, overall, this would equal 40 flowers. You should have more work in between there to solve it, because you'd be multiplying this straight across and then dividing it. I'll show you how. You have 15 times 8, which is 40. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 120 over 3. So you would do 3 divided by 120. 3 goes into 12, 4 times 0. Boom. Just like so. Okay. Next one. This is a tough one. Give me a second to write this up. So this one asks us 2 questions. 2/7 of the dogs were running. 20 dogs were not running. How many dogs were running? How many dogs were there in all? This problem asks 2 questions. You work it the same way you work the other problems, with 3 names. You write the equation for the name that has the number and solve the equation. That answers one of the questions. Write the equation and solve it. Write the answer with the unit name. Stop when you've done that much. So pause the video, work the first part of the problem. What you should have done is, you know you have dogs running and not running. So it gives us how many were not running. So we're going to use that to solve. If If I have 2 7s were running, I have 5 7s that were not running. So, of the dogs were not running. What does n equal? 20. So now I have 5, I'm going to put the 20 here. So this would be the reciprocal, like we do over here. This goes over 1. 7 times 2 equals 140 over 5. So there's that. But let me backtrack a little bit. So you can reduce the fraction before you solve it because 5 and 20 go into each other. What's 5 divided by 20? 4. So now you have a new equation. You have, so this is now 1. So what's 7 times 4? 28 over 1, which is just 28. So you know there's D equals dogs. So how many dogs were running? We still haven't answered that. We know that there's 28 dogs in all, and 20 of them were not running. So I have 28 dogs. 20 were not running. And now I need to know how many were running. What do I need to do? Subtract the numbers. And what's 28 minus 20? 8. All right. I'm going to write another one on the board for you. Give me a minute to write this up. So, new problem. 36 athletes were women. 3/5 of athletes were men. How many athletes were there in all? And how many athletes were men? Write the letter equation for the facts. Stop when you've done that much. So, pause the video and work it. What we know so far is there's athletes. Some are women, some are men. It's kind of written backwards than what we're used to. It wants us to also know how many athletes in all and how many were actually men, not just a fraction, the whole number. So the whole number it gives us though is women. I know 36 were women. So what's left over? 2/5. 2/5 of the athletes were women. And what do I know W equals? 36. So I'm going to work that problem. I'm going to do the reciprocal over here. And over here, this goes over 1. Can any of those be reduced? We're just going to work it. Actually, these two can be reduced. But we're going to do it this way instead. 36 times 5 is 30. 5 times 3 is 15. So 18 over, so I have 180 over 2, which is 90. So I have 90 athletes in all. 36 were women. Subtract that. Well, to do that, I'm going to borrow 8, 10, 4 men. Aww. 54 men. And I've solved. Okay. Now, for your independent work, I want to go over something real quick. Find part 3 in your textbook. You have hours students spent on homework last week. You're going to figure out the average for this problem. Remember, you divide by the number of people. Even if one person has a score of 0, you still have the amount of people there. So you can't leave somebody out just because they had a 0 score. So, how many people does the problem show? 5. So what are you going to divide to find the average? 5. How many scores are you adding up? Only 4, because somebody didn't get a score. Looks like Ben didn't do too well. So you'll work the problem as part of your independent work. Write the answer as a mixed number with the unit name. So now's that time. Your independent work begins now. You have, pretty easy, textbook, 3 through 10, no workbook. Good luck, get busy.